Hi everyone, I'm Sonnur, a third-year PhD student at CEMFI, and of course it's a great pleasure being here and presenting here today. So in this presentation, I'm going to talk about natural gas, but more specifically liquefied natural gas. So first things first, just a quick recap on the supply chain of the liquefied natural gas. So some countries have the resources like US, Qatar, Russia, they have exporting the natural gas. First, they have the resources and then they are extracting it. Then in the liquefaction plants, they are freezing the natural gas so that it could occupy less space and it could be loaded into the ships. Once the natural gas in the liquid form is on the ships, it can go wherever you want to go. Importer countries like Spain, France, UK, or the Asian countries, they need to have an infrastructure called regasification terminals to receive that ship, converting it back to the normal gas form, and then just transmitting to the end consumer. And my research question today is specifically starting from that part, the gas is loaded into the ships, and it is looking for a country, it is looking for a regasification terminal to land and receive the good. And more specifically, I am working with the Spanish context. The ships are specifically coming to the Spain. Why should we care about the Spanish LNG system? Because Spain is one of the largest LNG importers in Europe and maybe even in the world. And they have a very large and developed LNG storage capacity, they are holding a very significant amount of LNG in Europe. And considering all the natural gas that's coming to Spain, 60%, more than 60% of this gas is coming in LNG form, unlike the pipeline gas. Pipeline gas is the traditional infrastructure dependent gas, but most of the gases right now to Spain is coming in with ships. Okay. So now let's look at the Spain a little bit more detail to understand the research question. So as I said, they have a very large and developed system. They have 6 different regasification terminals. They're all on the coastal line of the country. Basically, ships from all over the world, they can choose one of the 6 physical locations to deliver the LNG good. So what was the system before? These 6 different physical locations were acting like 6 different fragmented, separated wholesale markets. Meaning, for example, as a seller, I'm coming from US, Texas, and if I conditional, I'm coming to Spain, while making a location decision, if I come to Barcelona terminal, I can sell my good only to the buyers, local buyers in Barcelona. If I go to Bilbao, I have to store my gas in Bilbao. I have to look buyers in Bilbao market, and I have to sell, I have to find a buyer under the Bilbao wholesale market. So physical location decision are completely tied up to the market, the trade location decision. And what was the problem again before? It was creating some inefficiencies in the system. In which sense? There are again 6 different terminals, but 3 of them are quite occupied in a sense because most of the local demand was in that region, in Barcelona or in Bilbao or in Huelva. But the rest of them, there are very few local buyers. No one wants to go there. The market is quite illiquid and small, very few operations, underutilization, all the market inefficiencies and the operational inefficiencies were happening in these 3 underutilized terminals. For example, there was a transportation cost inefficiency as well, in which sense, for example, a ship coming from this direction, instead of just going to the closest one, if it is going to come to Spain, it can just go to the closest one. But it is thinking, no one is going there. There are very few buyers. Maybe it is not even guaranteed that I can find a buyer in this terminal. Maybe I should just go to the biggest one, all over way to the Barcelona or any other faraway terminal. So it was creating a transportation cost inefficiency.
Yeah, but I guess that if markets work, shouldn't this generate some arbitrage in the sense that you say, okay, there's no buyers there in Galicia, but then this is going to generate some intermediaries that are going to start buying from there and then shipping through the gas pipeline to Bilbao or Barcelona, wherever demand is?
In the system before, like there were no arbitrage opportunities because it is not working like the pipeline gas, like in the infrastructure system. It is completely like if you, I don't know why, but there were no arbitrage opportunities before. Like there were no.
So, like for instance, if the gas gets there in Valencia, you cannot go through the yellow lines, the pipelines, to ship to Barcelona. Is that what you're saying?
Like it is not how LNG trade works. Like in the LNG trade, specific to the LNG, like exchanging the LNG title, they cannot use this pipeline infrastructure. It is like I am injecting gas in a specific point, and they have to withdraw this gas in that specific point. And again, fragmented market system, we're just creating like weak competitive forces because very few sellers were like choosing these smaller ones, and potentially maybe they were like exercising some sort of a market power. So what was the policy which I am trying to analyze? The market integration policy. The regulator is saying to the sellers, to the ships, from now on, like you can come like to whatever terminal you want to come, and then you are going to be a part of the same market, same unified market, regardless of your physical location. So just bring the good to the Spain, and we are going to make the optimization like within our country. So for example, if you come to this one or this one, it really doesn't matter. You are not going to interact with the local buyers in this specific sub-location, in a sense. You are going to be a part of the same national unified market. So all potential buyers and sellers are suddenly coming together in this unified market. And in fact, two policies happened at the very same time. This is April 1, 2020, like 6 years ago. Market integration was like the important one, but also they started to impose slot auctions. Before, for the ships, it was just first come, first served. They were just coming, waiting, unloading, and then leaving. And the fee, like the money that they were paying was the same across all terminals. But at the very same time, they introduced the slot auctions. First, sellers are auctioning for slots in a particular terminal. If there's an auction premium, they are paying for that. And then they are just coming and paying this money and then unloading. Until the very end of the presentation, I'm going to be a little bit silent about the slot auctions because at least what market is sensing, market integration was like the important one. So, but to be able to like disentangle the effects of these two policies at the end of the presentation, I would need a structural model. So this is where I'm going to mention these slot auctions again. But for now, for today, the main research question is like understanding what would happen in terms of like the market efficiency outcomes if we shift from a fragmented, separated market system to a unified, integrated markets. So quickly, the literature, I think like this work is like, first of all, related to the special frictions in the trade in general. And here, like we are introducing some location-based like trading constraints, which is like affecting the balance like in the system in general. And it is, of course, related to the market integration in energy systems in general. Like there are very good studies on the electricity, like integration in the electricity, like considering their transmission constraints and stuff. But I think this is like the first one on the LNG market. And it is related to the decision-making process of the LNG shipment. And as of my knowledge, like potentially it's going to be like the first project that could try to model the decision-making process of the LNG ships. Okay, to be able to answer these questions, what kind of data I'm using? First, I have the shipment data. For each ship coming to Spain, for each seller, I know their origins, arrival dates, the quantity that they are carrying, the destination, and like the average transport time that they are spending over the ocean. And I have the wholesale market transactions data. For each transaction happened in the wholesale market, I know the buyer, the seller, and the quantity traded. Before, again, there were 6 different markets. So my data was like, in this state, under Barcelona market, this buyer bought this much gas from this seller. But after the policy, I have only one single market, and all the transactions are happening under one market name. I have the customs data while entering the country. They are reporting the origin, the specific entry point, and like the price per quantity, like the euro per megawatt hour. And I can track all daily activities of these 6 regasification terminals, and I have like a bunch of controls. So again, for today, I have like 3 different dimensions to get some supporting evidence to analyze this policy that could motivate us towards a model. The first one is the balanced utilization. Again, like the story is, there are 6 different locations, 3 of them are quite occupied, and 3 of them are underutilized. And the system operator wants a more like balanced distribution of the ships, so that all the regasification plants can be like used more or less like with equal proportions. We can test for this. And the second one is the transportation cost efficiency. So okay, now suppose like sellers are like changing their mindset. They are now under a unified market. It should reflect to their location choice such that they should start to choose like closer terminals, because we are kind of like killing the local liquidity criteria that they are considering. We are saying just come like one of the terminals and it's going to be enough for you to participate, to be able to part of the same market. So after controlling for like, I don't know, other factors, it should be enough to just come into the closest terminal. And in terms of market conditions, again, before there were 6 different markets and some of them were like quite illiquid. And if we track some market like liquidity metrics, we should observe an improvement in the market conditions like in general. So the first one, the utilization.
And back to the last one. So why would you think a balanced use of LNG terminal is optimal? There are 2 costs. So the ship which has some shipping costs. And within your country domestically, there's another layer.
Yeah. For the system operator, like we talked with them this concern, for them, they prefer like the balanced utilization, because for them it is more costly and creating congestion if LNG is accumulated in like only few points. Like for them, okay, maybe local demand in Barcelona and maybe all the ships are going to Barcelona, but for them, regasifying it in Barcelona and then pumping to the national system is more costly. This is what they said. So even though maybe, local demand is in Barcelona, they still want, in terms of arrival of the ships, they still want a more balanced arrival of the ships.
So does this context, are the prices of the slots adjusted to their relative desirability? So for instance, if that particular port doesn't have the state-of-the-art infrastructure or is farther away from where the LNG origins are.
Okay, slot auctions. Like there are some like terminal fixed characteristics that affecting the slot prices for sure. Like some terminals that might have some permanent advantages, but I'm trying to control for them. But like other than that, I have a very limited data on slots, which I can infer like whether there's an excess demand for a particular slot in a particular time, and it should be reflected to the prices. So they should internalize like the pricing of the slots, and they could adjust their behavior based on that. But at least for now, like I have very limited information, like how powerful or how like differentiated the prices are, so that they are changing like their decisions or they can slots.
I'm just wondering if the other dimension is resilience to shocks, right? When you can only ship them from 2 points for relative to 6. Would that help like?
I think like in terms of system like resilience or like the supply security in general, I think it is like another benefit of the policy, I would say, because like, for example, if only a few terminals are being used, and I think before the system before this policy, the system is kind of like allowing some sort of a market power of like big incumbent firms, but after the policy, it is like becoming like more balanced, and I think it is given an opportunity to the smaller maybe sellers as well, which is like directly affecting the resilience. So in like from this dimension, I would also say like another benefit of the policy. So for today, I'm gonna talk about these three dimensions, let's say. So for the balanced utilization, so regasification terminals are responsible from receiving the gas, receiving the LNG, which is called unloading, and turning it to the gas form, which is called regasification, and also like production. So based on these 6 different activities, daily activities, I calculated the HHI index, and like the higher HHI should give us the information like only a few of them are like quite responsible and the rest of them are like quite underutilized, like imbalances. And after the policy, like we should see a more balanced distribution of the activities. And here, I know just a couple of months ago, the activity levels are like becoming a little bit balanced. But like right now, we are trying to understand whether there's some sort of an anticipation, and if, like in which sense. But at least from the perspective of the system operator right now, this underutilization, like we have 3 terminals, but no one is using it. They are like standing as a stranded asset, like they don't have this problem anymore. Like all the terminals are being used with almost equal proportions. And like with the HHI index variable, like bunch of characteristics and like the fixed effects, also it is confirming. After the policy, we can see a more balanced utilization. So like the first problem of the system operator seems like it is being solved. So now, okay, like we see the system is like becoming more balanced, but in terms of the transportation costs, like the distance choices, now we can ask like whether it is becoming balanced in a more transportation efficient way. So this is like how I imagine the system. This is a ship coming from Texas, and if it goes the closest one, Dragonasa, this is like incurring 514 hours, like on average. But before the policy, due to some local liquidity distortions, if for some reason it goes to Barcelona, then it is incurring like 13 more hours. It is spending 13 more hours on the transport. And why should we care about the transportation in LNG sector? Because LNG itself is like one of the most carbon intensive sectors, probably. Even 1 hour of LNG transport is like having a huge carbon emissions, and it is like socially costly. And also it has a private cost for the sellers as well. So they should also internalize this efficiency differences in the transportation decisions. So to be able to track these efficiencies, I define 2 different metrics. For example, if this is the case, instead of going to the closest one, if it is going to the Barcelona, for example, it is incurring 13 hours more. And the distance ratio is just taking the ratio, because, for example, if a ship is coming from US, maybe it can, for it, 500 whatever hours, like maybe not making it that much difference, but especially ships coming from very, very close distances, even a couple of hours like matter them a lot. So just to track these relative differences, I defined this metric. And I checked with how these 2 metrics are changing over time with the policy. So extra hours, like in terms of nominal hours, it seems like there's a modest reduction, but of course I do not claim like there's a significant decrease in transportation or something. But the reason could be like not all the ships are quite flexible and like making choices freely. Like in LNG shipments, some of the contracts are quite rigid, destination inflexible. So there are maybe the ones that can adjust might be limited. So because of that, I asked another question. So, okay, we know that.
Can I just ask you one thing on the previous thing we're talking about? Because one thing I was thinking is that in your argument, it seems like you're treating all terminals as equal, right? And eventually, some ports could have, a a wider berth and be deeper and accommodate larger ships, other knots? Are you accounting eventually for
Maybe
this?
internal fixed effects, because I think
No,
all.
but I see. But the thing is that eventually in this rerouting choice, eventually, you know, people keep going, for instance, just using this example to Barcelona, because the other ports eventually cannot receive a bigger ship, and you see what I mean? I mean,
Yeah.
are all terminals identical? Is there heterogeneity that eventually explain this story?
Yeah, there are differences, and again, like while, for example, constructing the model, I think like by allowing some terminal fixed effects, I mean not terminal fixed effects, I'm adding these characteristics, like I mean number of vaporizers, berth levels, like whatever, I don't know. I'm adding all these characteristics, and they are kind of giving some particular advantage to the some of the terminals for sure. Like some of them,
I see.
eventually gonna attract more ships, like.
But it would be
matter.
interesting just to understand what is inside these fixed effects, right? And you know, understand eventually if there is this sort of fixed characteristics in these terminals that interact with the mechanism you're studying.
Yeah, I think yeah. Right now, I'm just treating them like some like constant number, but maybe like I can try to interact them like more with the changing with the number of ships choosing that terminal. It could be, yes. Okay. So about transportation, the second question that I am asking, okay, like after the policy, we observe that the previously underutilized terminals are being like used right now. Like there are some new like special allocation to these previously underutilized terminals. But I ask whether the ones that doing it, whether the ones that allocating more quantity to the previously underutilized terminals, whether they are decreasing their transportation cost or not. This is the question that I was asking. And again, maybe like the results are not super significant or something, but at least the ones that are allocating more to the previously underutilized one, they are decreasing their transportation cost. So this is also like associated with a transportation cost efficiency in a sense.
If the transportation cost was not the problem behind no market integration before, what was the main reason?
Like
Before the policy, why there was no market integration?
like before the policy, like of course they might care about the transportation cost, but the idea is they care about the liquidity or like local market conditions as well. So they might tolerate spending a couple of hours in the like on the transport just to be able to reach to the like a bigger, like more mature or like more liquid market. So transportation cost is something always important, but after the policy, they can be like more sensitive for the transportation cost. But this is because like this is the main thing that they can care about right now. But before the policy, there was another thing that's kind of distorting their location choice as well. So the market conditions. So this is how I imagine the markets. Suppose these are like the three, like the previously bigger ones, and these are the previously like illiquid ones. So the buyers in the illiquid ones, they are facing with a very few number of sellers, quantities are low, number of transactions are low. So like all the like red flags in terms of the liquidity metrics. But after the policy, if we pool all potential buyers and sellers into one single marketplace, they should like face and like have the opportunity to trade with like a more diverse set of sellers. We should like observe maybe less concentration, which gonna affect like the competition in the market. And also, okay, like the market conditions are improving for everyone, but the hypothesis could be the ones that coming from like illiquid markets, they should enjoy the new market like even more. So to test this, I defined several like market metrics, number of counterparties that they are from the perspective of buyers, number of counterparties that they are interacting with, number of trades that they're incurring in a month, and like the given month, like what is the average supplier concentration that they are facing in a market. So the red one is showing the post-policy interaction, is saying like after the policy overall, now everyone is like interacting with more sellers with a very less concentration. So like we are kind of killing the market power of the sellers. But And blue one is showing like on top of that, the ones that the buyers that coming from previously illiquid markets, they are like enjoying like more sellers, like even less seller concentration. So it is also kind of solving one of the particular concerns of the regulator, which is like about promoting the competition. So after these suggestive evidences, now I started to think about like the structural model, because as I said, like two policies happen at the same time, and slot auctions potentially might affect their routing behavior as well. And also, again, the question is just disentangling the effects of these two policies. I start with a static discrete choice model, but I think I don't have time to show it today. Then I'm just trying to extend the structural model so that like we could, first we can like disentangle the policies, and additionally like we can ask some other like counterfactual questions. For today, let me show at least like the model in my mind. So I'm thinking a seller coming from another country, conditional on coming to Spain, it is gonna choose like one of the 6 different physical locations. And like there are some terminal characteristics, time varying or terminal fixed effects. They care about liquidity, and before the policy, liquidity is something terminal specific, varying with terminal J. And after the policy, we are kind of killing this channel. And slot prices, again, before the policy, there were no slot prices. And after the policy, the system is introducing it. They care about distance always, and some terminal fixed effect. And the idea here is, if a seller is going to a particular terminal, or at least it wants to go to a particular terminal, it is like increasing the market liquidity overall. Like it is bringing a new quantity, and it is like increasing the liquidity. And also it is showing a demand for a particular slot in that terminal, which is also potentially increasing the slot fees of this terminal. These are like both like equilibrium outcomes, but at the same time, the things that they are considering while making a decision. So what I'm trying to do is here just estimating a fixed point in the system. So for the liquidity, I have some instruments. For the pre-policy estimation, I have some instruments that I can use, which are working fine. But for the slot prices, slot price data is quite confidential, so I don't have any information about like how much they are paying for a particular slot, but just trying to exploit the data that I have, like based on like the number of applications per slots and like the by terminal. I'm trying to use these variation in a sense.
Can you see slot availability and try
to? This is the information that I'm trying to use. Like the system operator is like offering a set of slots, like it is saying these slots are available, and I can see the number of applications per slot like they are receiving. So I'm just trying to come up with a excess demand score or something to exploit this information. So, and at the end of the day, where I want to go is, again, the liquidity channel is going to change before and after the policy. Before it's going to be terminal specific, after it's going to be something like national, shouldn't affect their decisions. And for the slot auctions, before it is something fixed across all terminals and not affecting their decisions, but after that it is also going to depend on the share of the ships that choosing a particular terminal. And if hopefully I can come up with a model explaining the decision making process of ships, these are the additional questions that I want to ask, especially like in terms of the changing supply dynamics in the energy crisis, understanding the how efficient the market is. And I think that's it. Thank you.